The CEO of a $250 billion pension fund doesn't take your calls. They don't respond to your LinkedIn message. They don't come to your event. They're not interested in what you're building unless you're Grace Reyes. She launched Tide in January of 2020. Everyone told her to wait it out, preserve capital, try again later. She didn't. She has built it in 5 years, starting right when COVID made her entire business plan and model impossible.
Well, I think all my life it has always been about survival, so I knew it had to work. I had no choice.
Is money moving, or are we just having better conversations around the money that is moving?
Even if you're diverse or not, it's still hard to fundraise, right? At the end of the day, I always say it's based on performance.
What makes someone good on stage versus just famous?
I would say, and this goes back to networking, making sure that you're adding value to the people that are in front of you. I've had a few people that I've attended Tide for the first time, and when they attended, they're like, Grace, the Tide vibe is the real thing. And yeah, so I think that Tide vibe, having it on stage is key to a successful presentation.
What do you see right now that you think is going to really define the next 5 years in conferences? And what is that shift?
Is for us, we're not about the quantity of events that we do. We're all about quality. So yeah, I think it's making sure that we stick to what we believe in, and that's quality versus quantity.
I think that the thing that I took away that really matters is that Grace really built an empire by becoming a person that the most powerful people in finance and that run the world actually want to talk to. And she talked to me. So I feel blessed. Grace, thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, I'm going to start here. You launched in January 2020 at Davos. We met at the piano bar. We ran into Anthony Scaramucci, who I've had on the podcast previously. It was amazing. And by March, the entire world shut down. Or it should have been. Was there a specific moment when you thought this isn't going to work?
Well, I think all my life it has always been about survival, so I knew it had to work. I had no choice. So we pivoted right away, and I think that's what our key to our success and our momentum the past few years is we're able to change whenever we need to, pivot whenever we need to, and have fun while we're doing it.
I absolutely love that. I think that a lot of founders need that information in order to go ahead and pivot early and just pivot absolutely completely with 2 feet in. Let's talk about the last 2 years specifically, because you really have been hitting the ground and hitting it hard. What's really shifted, honestly, in the diversity conversation in institutional investing? Because it feels different.
So I think of this as, people say that money changes people. I think money makes people more of who they are. And I think in this environment, it's the same analogy where it gives people the license to be truly who they are. And the same people that support DEI are still supporting it. They have to pivot. So, for instance, a lot of endowments and foundations, they have taken off DEI from their websites. But at the end of the day, they're naming it something different. So, for instance, we hosted an event with a pension plan, and the goal was to get diverse and emerging managers and to show support. And instead of calling it DEI, we called it Blue Ocean, because Blue Ocean is about not, it's a strategy not to, compete in the red ocean and to find, not to fish at the same ocean as everyone else and
Yep.
create new opportunities. And so I think people are being more creative about DEI. And um, one thing I would say is for our conference this year, when the tide has turned against DEI, there was more people that decided to show up because they said, if we're going to support, this is the year to support. So that was very comforting to have the support of those people this year.
That's the truth that nobody actually speaks in these rooms. Is money moving, or are we just having better conversations around the money that is moving?
For me, people always or funds always mention how hard it is to fundraise. Even if you're diverse or not, it's still hard to fundraise, right? At the end of the day, I always say it's based on performance. DEI is not about handing out, lowering our standards. It's about making sure that all fund managers are looked at. So capital is flowing to those that are performing. Um, and, it's a hard fundraising environment no matter what. And we're doing our best to make sure that those fund managers who are performing well and deserve a chance for a look, that they get that opportunity.
Let's go ahead and pivot just slightly. I need you to take me inside the actual mechanics of building. So in 2020, Tide doesn't exist. Nobody knows who you are. And still yet, you got CalSTRS, New York State Commons, you got Team Sec, you got the biggest institutional investors on earth to show up at your event. Like, how did you actually get them? Where were these people? Who did you know? Did you just call them? Did you cold call them? Did you know somebody who knew somebody? How did that work?
So my background is in private equity fundraising, and I've established a network of LPs the past 20 years. And so what it seems that Tide just started in January 2020, and all of a sudden I had these relationships, but those relationships were built over time.
Yep.
I tell people all the time, networking is like eating a fruit. You don't plant the seed the day you want to eat the fruit. You plant it few months, few years before, right? And I think the work that I've been doing, the network that I've built, the relationships that I built, that was a testament of everything that I built. And when I created Tide, those that have the relationships that I built showed up for that. And so it was great to get that support. In the beginning, I would say they supported it because of my relationship,
Yep.
but the past few years, they not only supported it because of me, but because they believe in it and they see how valuable it is to the industry.
And can you walk me through one specific example? You don't have to name names. I'm not that person. Like a specific example of that was one of the hardest gets that you got. And how did you make it happen?
So starting a conference business is similar to starting a fund. If you were to start a fund and you have the largest institutional investors anchoring it, it's much easier to get other investors involved. And so for me, it was like, how do I get CalSTRS and New York State Common involved? That was the challenge, right? And Scott Chan was my neighbor. I knew him since he was at UC Regents, and then he became deputy CIO of CalSTRS, and now he's CIO of CalSTRS. So again, it goes back to relationships.
Yep.
Marcy Frost, CEO of CalPERS, I was introduced to her by Andrew Junkin. So without that introduction, um, I I don't think she would know me from Adam. So I think that vote of confidence from Andrew Junkin has been so valuable. And New York State Common, every year since 2017, I have showed up at Albany, New York during Valentine's Week, and always attended their event. And so I'm always trying to be in front of allocators and building these relationships. So while it's challenging for me, it's the persistence and because I truly believe in what we're trying to build at Tide.
I absolutely love that. And I think you actually answered my next question, which was really around the concept of, once you get them, how do you keep them? And I think persistence is absolutely the answer to that. So here's what I think that most people get wrong about networking, because that is really what it's about, right? Relationships and building those out. Um, and you can tell me if I'm right. I could be wrong. I think it's not just about collecting business cards and being memorable. It's more than that. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. So for me, building relationships is often what people get wrong is when they're trying to network, they're trying to figure out how can I extract value from this
Mm,
person? It's how can I get something from this person?
yep.
For me, it's always about how do I add value, and how do I make sure that, one of the things I would say is I'm persistent, but there's a limit. I always make sure that if I make an ask, I'm not asking for a lot of other things, right? And that's basically why I host one event once a year, our marquee conference, and we host
Yep.
one in Europe. We're all about quality versus quantity. So same way with my ask or things that I need from LPs, it's about it's more intentional versus let me see what else I could get. It's more about making sure that when I'm asked something, it's adding value to them as well, and it's something of interest to them.
I can't agree more. I think how you can add value to the person. And then also being a super connector, like how can I connect you with somebody that you need? And you've always been one of those super connectors in my network. And I am so ever grateful for it. Let me tell you, you speak at these conferences constantly. Um, you've both sat through some absolutely terrible speakers who have really huge names. What makes someone good on stage versus just famous?
I would say, and this goes back to networking,
Yep.
making sure that you're adding value to the people that are in front of you. And that's why I was a bit nervous with this podcast, because I want to make sure that when I'm saying something to your audience, that I'm adding value. And I think when you're up on stage, it's the same thing. Like, how do you um, say it in a way that creates excitement, that adds value, that gives insights. So yeah, I think one of the things if you're on stage is to make sure that you're adding value, and also be really prepared. I think one of the things that differentiates Tide or myself is when we're on stage, we lighten up the stage. It's not as formal or as stiff as a normal panel conversation, and I think that really changed. It's called the Tide Vibe, and it's funny because uh, I've had a few people that I've attended Tide for the first time, and when they attended, they're like, "Grace, the Tide Vibe is the real thing." And yeah, so I think that Tide Vibe, having it on stage, is key to a successful presentation or keynote or panel. Is just make sure it's lively and entertaining and have a lot of like positive energy.
I can't agree with you more. And, working at the WEF for over 9 years, I've seen people that are famous and terrible speakers. And I don't know, and I wouldn't say that it's because they're not behind the vision or the mission. I think that it takes a lot of training. It's not the same, right? It's definitely not the same. What's the difference really between giving a talk that people forget immediately versus the person that they quote 6 months later?
It's the same way when you introduce yourself or when you're at a party and you meet someone new. I think it translate well to the stage as well. It's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. And I think that right there is the key to being memorable is, oh, she made me laugh, or oh, that was like I resonated with whatever she said. So getting people to feel something, I think helps you become memorable on stage and during networking events.
Let's talk about being in the room, right? So you've been in Davos, you've been at SALT, you've been at Return, you've been in rooms full of people that all really want something, right? And what's the actual secret to being heard and being someone that they want to talk to? And I don't think it's what most people think it is.
That's a tough one because when I was younger, I had this meet and discuss these certain topics or people or whatever. I had an agenda, right? And I think that's what helped me get in front of doors because I had a focus when I'm
Mm.
attending these events. However, as I've gotten more experience, as I've gotten, more relationships or and I attend all these events, For me, I have no agenda. For me, it's like I just want to get to know these people. I'm all about good energy and good vibes. So for me, and I think that's what helps too is just getting to know a person because of them versus, oh, this person's a GP or an LP or this person can help me out in some way. It's more, do I like this person as a person?
Yeah.
Um, and that's what has helped me.
All right, let's be tactical about this. You talked about a couple of things that you did early on, which was to go ahead and have an agenda items that you wanted to cover with everybody versus just going ahead and getting to know somebody. If you're someone like me, I will tell you I am a introverted extrovert. If someone's at a cocktail reception or at one of these amazing events, even, at Tide, what's the move? How should they open?
Actually, I think the key to doing well at these conferences or at any events is go with the crew. And I think that's what has helped Tide is we always come with a crew. I mean,
Mm.
even back in the days, right, when you were younger, you wouldn't go to a party by yourself. You'd show up with your gang. And for us, it's the girl crew, girl power. We have the most coolest girls in the industry. We all hang out, we all attend events together. And I think that's what helps you network because it greases the oil. When one person meets another person, it's like, oh, you should meet this person or that person. And I think that has been a tremendous help for us. Is just having these group of girls and guys attend events together as a crew. Yeah, it's been really fun to hang out with people in the industry because it makes the work fun, and it's as if we're not working; we're just all hanging out.
I've always said, find your crew, find your gang, find your tribe, whoever it may be, and break through barriers together because it's always easier when you do it as a team. And what about after, right? A lot of people will have a great conversation at a cocktail, at a party, at an event or whatever. The follow up, right? Because that's where most people blow it. What is your answer to that?
I'm glad you asked that because that's the next chapter of Tide. So right now, we're building a tech platform that enables people to keep in touch after the conference.
Hmm.
We've heard from many attendees that it's like, Grace, I wish there was a way to keep in touch aside for just me mailing an email, sending an email out in the ether and not getting answers. And so we're trying to build a tech around that. Everyone's been it's been tried before, right? Like so many
Yep.
people have been trying to connect through tech. But I think where Tide is different is we have this community. It's a warm connection, not everyone can just get on the platform and sign up. It's we're making sure that the people that get on add value as well. So yeah, I think that's a important question is how do people keep in touch after a conference? And that's what we're trying to build for next year.
I just want to let you know, do not let Salesforce hear that because they are listening. Um, if you figure out the answer, definitely sell to Salesforce, though. Absolutely sell to Salesforce or Event or whoever. But on a funner note, you traveled to what, like 50 countries? And you've been doing this on two continents and two zones, right? Give me a number. How many days were you on the road last year?
I mean, I could look at my Marriott app. Should I look at that kind of helps. Let's see. Into over 60 countries and my Marriott for this year is over 100 days.
That is absolutely incredible. Just absolutely phenomenal. Considering that I know who you are as a person, as a woman, as a mom, and everything else like that. How do you do it? Tell me a little bit about the inside workings.
I think that's one of the reasons why I love working for Tide or I love that I created Tide because it's something I would do anyways. For me, it doesn't feel like work. So when I travel, I always reach out to LPs or figure out a way to network with people. So for me, I try to find reasons to travel and create business cases around it.
talking about the business side, since you brought up, like Tide and how you think through about building those business cases. What is the best advice you've gotten while you were building Tide?
I have really great board of directors who guide me and, give their suggestions. But at the end of the day, they give me the freedom and the wholehearted support to do whatever I want to do. And I think that's key when starting a business is like, even if you get advice, what does your gut tell you? And for me, I've always just followed my gut and I believed in myself. And I think that's key to success because, starting your own business can be hard. And a lot of people, sometimes you don't get support. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to deliver.
Moving on to the next thing, one of the things I absolutely love about you, and I wish I could do more of, is you do the selfie thing, right? On LinkedIn with basically every major player that, what is it, I'm very excited about. Some people think it's just personal branding, but I think there's really more to it. What are you actually doing when you do that? What is the marketing thought process behind it?
I think for me, I take a selfie because I think the LPs are cool and I'm like, "Hey, let's take a selfie." There's actually no strategy behind it. It's like I want to share the cool people that I'm with. So for me there has never been really a strategy around it. It just so happens that because of that by association, it has helped Tide become the network that it is to get to today because it shows that we're connected to these high profile institutional investors. So it definitely helps. But yeah, like for me, it was more because I thought they're cool and why not? Like we're all hanging out.
I just want to let you know, because of you, I take more selfies. I literally say I blame it on Grace. She says I should take more selfies with people that I meet so that I remember them and that we have like a moment. So I just want to let you know I've been using that for quite some time. Um, let's talk about let's talk about conferences in general. If someone is going to an institutional conference, investing conference, financial services conference for the first time, what is the one thing that they should know that nobody tells them in advance?
When we host our marquee Tide Spark event, we set those expectations, right? And I think
Yeah.
these are the programs that are happening. We make sure that they're very well prepared. And I think that helps with the vibe of the conference. So I think I'm answering your question in a different way is if you're prepared and if the conference producer gives you all these suggestions to help you prepare, I think you have a wonderful time.
I love that. What do you see right now that you think is going to really define the next 5 years in conferences? And what is that shift?
So I see a lot of conferences doing more, right? And because they're part of a larger organization that they have to deliver more. And I think that's where Tide differs is for us, we're not about the quantity of events that we do. We're all about quality. So yeah, I think it's making sure that we stick to what we believe in and that's quality versus quantity.
Let's talk about closing deals. How do you move from nice to meet you to let's actually do something together?
My whole goal is to know the person as a person
Yeah.
versus okay, I have this goal to get them to speak at my conference. So for me, if I build rapport with them and build that connection, that's a win for me. Having them speak at my event is a cherry on the cake or icing on the cake, one of those. For me, it's the win is when I build that connection.
For people that are goal oriented and very ambitious, what is the signal that tells you someone is actually serious versus being polite and they want to escape to the bathroom?
Yeah, I think having EQ is very important no matter what industry you're in. And I always recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie to people. It helps people become more self aware. In fact, I actually want to create a book and write a book that's a modern version of that, but with more like Sarah Jessica Parker voice, and more modern. And so, yeah, I think for us, what comes naturally or what we think is common sense is actually not common sense to many people. And that's surprising to me. And so for me, by creating this book or hopefully like through podcasts like this or through my LinkedIn, I'm able to share the skills that I know that has helped me build relationships.
I can't agree more. I think that social skills are something that, unless you come from a very social family or background, are something that you're not exposed to, right? It's not lack of understanding or common sense, it's lack of exposure, it's lack of learning, it's lack of opportunity. And so with this book, I think that you will help a great many people, especially women, right? And women of color, to go ahead and master this skill that is at sometimes quite daunting. Someone like you who interviewed, was it Randy Zuckerberg on stage? You've interviewed an immense amount of people. What is the different skill set between interviewing versus being interviewed as you are today?
So for me, being interviewed is harder than interviewing someone else because interviewing someone else for me actually it comes from curiosity, so it comes naturally, right? It's a conversation. It's like what do I really want to know about this person? So it comes from the heart. And being interviewed while the answers also come from the heart, it's more I want to make sure it's more polished and I want to make sure it resonates or I want to make sure that it's cohesive. Because at the end of the day, again, I want the audience to get a lot of value out of
Yeah.
it instead of just talking about myself. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I could say about myself, but like at the end of the day, it's like what matters to the audience.
I really appreciate that, and I think that that's something that is quite different, and most people need to learn, right? If you're invited onto a panel, remember that you're trying to give value to the audience, not always just your opinion. All right, we're going to go into the quick fire rounds. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Best city for business and nobody talks about.
Lisbon.
I don't think that that's like the first thing that people think of when they think about a business to do, a city to do business in. So that is a great answer. What's the one that gets you deleted?
Part of having EQ, right, is knowing what the boundaries are.
And each person is really different. So some people like text messages. And, if you're talking to somebody who may be older per se, right, from a different generation, they may prefer a phone call. Like everybody's different and making sure to remember that, note it. What conferences, besides, of course, Tide, which if you haven't signed up already, go ahead and sign up for. What conferences in the next 6 months are you finding the most exciting and new and fresh and have those ideas that people should attend?
Definitely Milk in Beverly Hills. That's the go-to for all industry. It's not only finance, which gets a lot of people excited about. And then there's also Super Return. So if you're in the private equity space, like Super Return Berlin is a no-brainer.
I love that. And what book would you recommend most recently? If somebody only had one book to read for 2026, what would it be?
So many I could choose from, but I think my favorite is the one by Mark Manson. I read it a long time ago, but it's How to Not Give a Fuck or something like that.
Oh, yes. I've read this book. Yes. It has an orange cover. What is it?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely love this. All right. Last question. It is now 3 years from now. What does Tide look like? How have you changed it? What is it morphing into? And what does the future look like?
I think I could envision Tide to have an Asia presence. I also envision Tide to increase its programming to the Tide Foundation is the nonprofit part of Tide, which supports future leaders. So think college students to associate level. And we sponsor 65 students every single year in partnership with UTEMPCO and UC Regents Academy. And we have received a handful feedback from these younger generation because they have attended our event. They have stood out amongst the applicants for something that they're applying for, and they got the job because of this attending the event. So that's very, that's why we do our work, is to help open doors for those that are underprivileged, and that's what makes it more fulfilling.
I'm thinking about that same question. What are you doing? I know you mentioned a book. Tell me a little bit more about that. Are you doing the same thing or different? What does your world look like?
Chaos. My world, at the end of the day, my whole focus is to make sure that we keep the industry engaged, and to make sure that we deliver the quality event that our supporters ask for. And so for me, it's making sure that we build relationships with LPs, new relationships, because at the end of the day, if you keep on going to the event, and then you keep on meeting the same people, that really doesn't add value. So for me, I'm always out there finding new LPs, new relationships, and not even if they're not an LP, if they're a person that just adds great vibe or adds value to the event, we're open to that as well.
I absolutely love this. That, my friends, was Grace Reyes. You can find her on LinkedIn. She's going to be the one who's standing next to basically everyone who matters in her selfies. And I think that the thing that I took away that really matters is that Grace really built an empire by becoming a person that the most powerful people in finance and that run the world actually want to talk to. And she talked to me. So I feel blessed. That's not luck, that's really strategy. And if you're trying to build anything in this industry, it's not only the strategy that matters, it's the people. So, with that, I'm going to say happy 2026 to everyone that's out there. This is going to be a hell of a year. Let's go for the ride. This is Confluently. I'm Tiffany, and I'm the fuck out.